Now we're going to talk about making an unweaving. So I'm going to go ahead and pull apart the sides. As you pull, you just want to do one at a time. Okay, these are the jute fibers, right? And just set them aside in a little pile as you go. But you want to have a nice fringe here. Picture the edge of a rug. That's kind of what it reminds me of, a little bit of a fringe. So again, just one at a time in the right order. If you try to grab a whole bunch at once like that, you're going to find that it doesn't quite want to come for you. Even if I try to do two at a time, see how it doesn't want to pull, but yet it pulls super easily as long as I do one at a time, whatever layer is first, okay? Once you have about an inch or so, and it might not be perfectly even. You'll notice sometimes the cuts of these, it's just how the manufacturer sends them. A little bit more narrow here and a little bit wider here, and that's fine, okay? And then same thing over here. You can see some diagonal cutting. If I tried to pull this one, I'm gonna run into that same problem. So just find whatever the first one is and pull them off to the side in your pile, okay? It might have a little bit of fiber dust. So again, if you just kind of brush it and keep it off to the side in one area, it should be fine, and maybe hopefully not make too much of a mess. Okay, you could even do some fun fiber projects with the edges that you're saving. There we go, that's that side. And so on. We're gonna go all the way around until there's fringe on all four sides. Okay, now that I have these wonderful edges here, I'm ready to start pulling out my first rows of my unweaving. So I'm gonna decide where I wanna begin. I usually start with the short edge. That's this, okay? This would be the long edge. So I'm gonna pick a spot anywhere, separate the fibers, and once I find a good one, I'm gonna kind of really hold it and grab it. This is why we want to have a nice fringe, so we have something to really grab onto. And then you're gonna see that the weaving wants to scrunch up like this. Just use your other hand and just ever so softly hold it in place. Those first couple strands can be tricky, but already you see a little stripe there. That's the start of my design, my pattern. I like to pull a few in a row. I'm gonna say anywhere between 4 to 6 pulls would be a good amount to create a nice sized stripe. And then I just move on to another area of my weaving after I've done that. I haven't really been counting here, but I'm gonna do one more. All right, there we go, see? And then do as many as you want. I would say do at least 4 on both edges. Okay, so that would be 1, but you can definitely do more than that. Decide how much space do you want between your 2 rows, right? I just did a little bit here. You might have a thin row and then a thicker row and then you can do any kind of pattern with your unweaving. And same as before with the fringe on the sides, just set aside your jute fibers off in a little pile, okay? And you'll notice that the more you pull, the weaving will feel less tight and get a little bit easier. And just remember too, you can't really pull a whole bunch at once. It really just wants to let you do one at a time. Okay, I'm gonna do one more row and then I'll show you. Normally I do recommend doing more than just these 3 and to space them out a little bit so they're not all just on one half of the weaving. But for the sake of demonstrating, I will turn it towards the other direction to show you that, okay? All right, and every now and then this is gonna happen too. These wanna pull apart, and that's fine. You can pull another one of those off if it looks kind of funky hanging out there. And sometimes you'll see this. Little bits of fiber stuck in the middle, and you can kind of wedge your fingers in there and pull those out too. Okay, now, let's say I did do a whole bunch of these. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the long side, okay? So these are gonna be my vertical stripes. Now what's gonna happen here, we're gonna go ahead and pull. Now this is a much longer amount of weaving to get it out of. So really just pull, 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 pull. Hold with one hand and just maybe even some jerks. Don't worry if it bunches up. But now look at this, now you have a stripe going this way, and look what happened where it crisscrossed the rows you did. Uh-oh, look, there's little holes there. I like to call these my little windows. So, same as before, pull between, I don't know, 4 and 6 or 7. It really just depends on how big you want your holes to be in your unweaving. There we go. Love it. All right, and then I'm gonna do a few more. I go down to the next area and do the same thing. And the more rows that I pull in this direction, the more windows I have wherever they crisscross, okay? Again, I would do at least 4 stripes going in the long direction, okay? But you can always do more than that. Watch out for just continually pulling, because then eventually the whole thing just starts to fall apart too. That's something that I've seen happen, and it's okay if it does, but just try your best to keep it to a reasonable amount. Once you feel like, okay, that's a good square, we'll go ahead and try another one. Okay, all right, when you have lots of windows, then we can begin adding pipe cleaners and beads. Okay, now we're gonna take our pipe cleaners, and hopefully you have some fun beads that you've picked out. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna create some interesting designs inside the window. So now that you have these holes, we're gonna weave through one doorway or window, and then we're gonna come out the other, okay? See how that works? And then I like to push my thumbs here and then my other fingers this way, so I kind of move it up. So it almost looks like a V or a U, okay? All right, the next step to get it to stay here as part of my design is to twist them. So again, I'm using one hand to hold it in place, and my other hand's just gonna twist like that. See here? So I made a little tie. The nice thing about pipe cleaners is they'll hold in place. Now you can do a pattern with color if you have enough different colors, or you can just simply do any colors you like. All right, you can do all one row, or you could skip around. All right, I'll show again. I kind of press down and up to make it look like that V, and then I use one hand to hold it in place while the other hand twists it around like that. See that? I'll do one over here. It's really a lot of fun to do and kind of design it that way. There's the V, hold it in place and twist it. Okay, now when you've done a lot of these and you're happy with the amount you have, like I said, just kind of create a fun design with it. Go ahead and pick out some really neat beads. Now we're gonna use those real fine motor skills of ours. Some of the beads might have bigger holes, which is nice and easy to slip on, only it could possibly slip off. So I like to end each larger bead with a smaller bead. And some of these beads have really tiny holes, but the nice thing about the pipe cleaners is that usually works just fine. You can still get them on there. Just be careful, the end of the pipe cleaner is a little pointy, so you wanna watch out for that. Okay, so find some fun beads you like, decorate as many as you want. I usually do about 2 on a side, but you can do more than that. You can do just 1. You can leave the side completely empty. I think if it's a really tight squeeze, just have it be right there in the end. See that one? And that's not going anywhere. It should stay put. Okay, have fun with this step and enjoy.